All right, guys, welcome back. Video today is why modern day relationships simply don't work anymore. So let's get into it.
You'll be on Bumble, you'll be on Hinge, you'll be on Tinder. Modern day relationships, especially in the West, have become extremely difficult to maintain. Everyone I know seems to be having some sort of issue when it comes to relationships, whether it be maintaining the current relationship they have, whether it be finding a relationship that makes sense for them. So everyone's having some sort of struggle when it comes to relationships. Now, to
I think this is pretty valid. I got a good friend who got out of a 9 year relationship, another friend that got out of a 5 year relationship, then went back into another relationship, ended up not working out. Like, the likelihood of you coming out of a long term relationship like that and then working into another relationship and that one working out, it doesn't seem all that likely nowadays. So interesting to see his point of view here on this.
it's pretty obvious why that's the case. Times have changed. We live in a very new society that we have to adapt to. And so you have to understand why relationships are not working and then use that to evolve to this new man that you should become in order to make relationships work. Or, of course, you can choose the path that I've chosen, which for the time being is to remain single and to enjoy the presence of multiple beautiful women until I find the right woman to come across who I'll probably choose to be.
It's so true. Like nowadays, you got so many options with the dating apps and social media. It just makes it so easy to move on to the next thing. I agree with what he's saying here. I've been single for the last 2, 3 years or so. And yeah, I've been going out dating, just getting to know new people. And I just feel a lot better. Like I'm not tied down. I don't have to do stuff that I don't want to do. And when the right person comes along, happy to settle down, happy to have, happy wife and kids and all that stuff. But right now, man, I'm just kind of living my life. Feels good.
Partner of mine and someone that I'll choose to eventually have children with. But again, I don't know exactly what I want because I'm trying to adapt to this new world that we live in as well. So I'm not saying that I know exactly what the right way to go is. I'm enjoying my life and I suggest you do exactly the same thing in yours. But everyone I seem to speak to, and I was out at dinner last night with a bunch of guys a little bit older than I am, and they were saying, just broken up with their girlfriend and they can't seem to make it work, or she's just left them, and everyone they know is not having a good time in terms of their relationships. And I think
It's so ironic that he says that because it's like I live in like a similar situation, but I also have like a good group of friends that have a fiance, have a wife, have kids, and they seem happy, right? You don't know what's going on behind closed doors, but it's interesting to see like my core friend group from back in the day. Like most of them are in long-term relationships or married, but there is like a good chunk of my friends as well that are coming out of long-term relationships, like that 9 and 5 year relationship I was just telling you about, right? I have a pretty big group of friends, so it's interesting because I get a lot of different perspectives on things. But interesting to see how that works out long term. I hope the best for all my friends. I hope they don't get divorced and then they have good relationships long term. But just interesting to see how that ends up panning out.
well, all of this stuff is actually pretty obvious, right? There's a reason why relationships have become so extremely difficult. The first thing is we've just got a shit ton of options.
Yep.
You live in a big city like London, you'll be on Bumble, you'll be on Hinge, you'll be on Tinder. So if something doesn't work with her, then you'll
swipe.
find someone else.
Just swipe.
Now, if
It's
she's
so
a
easy.
good-looking girl and she's tired of your
It's
ass,
so easy.
and she just jumps on the dating apps,
It's too easy.
she's got an insane number of options.
100%.
Insane number of options.
100%.
So she can just simply switch the apps on, and then she's got a bunch of other guys that want to take her out to dinners, that want to take her to clubs, buy her bags, and do all sorts of silly shit that men do for women these days. Because we
Yep.
have a shit ton of simps, and when you are in
100%.
cities like London, you tend to be around wealthy men who can afford to take a woman to nice places.
Yep.
So the first problem is options.
For
People
sure.
just simply have a shit ton of options in today's day and age. And therefore, they are less willing to compromise and less willing to sacrifice for their other half. So if something pisses them off, then they immediately just move on to the next person.
Which is pretty pathetic, right? Like, if she doesn't get her way with something, she can just Flip the switch. On to the next one. See you later. We were talking for a year, 2 years, whatever. Now it's over. Like, done. Like, moving on. Easy. Like, it's just crazy. It's just mind blowing. Like, you have a connection with somebody one day. Everything's good. Everything's great. You guys are going out, going on vacations, eating out, nice places, all that great stuff. And then all of a sudden, you guys have like one small little fight, and she's like, "All right, see you later. Done."
I have no patience to spend time on someone and to say, "Oh, don't worry, baby, we'll work this out together." It's more like, well, fuck it. It hasn't worked now.
For
I've had a
sure.
little argument. You've pissed me off. On I go. I've got other options anyway.
It's crazy, dude.
That's the first problem.
It's absolutely crazy.
First problem is plethora of options that both sexes have, especially if they're good looking. Especially if she's a good looking girl, she will have an insane number of options. The second thing I would say, the reason why relationships just don't seem to work anymore is because if you look at the kind of world we now live in, we live in a very individualistic society. People are selfish. People only care about themselves.
Yep.
People don't really give a shit about others.
For sure.
They care, and they're taught to care about their own mental health, right? This whole self-care environment that we live in, which I'm all for, by the way. Of course, you should absolutely care about yourself, and you how you feel is the most important. However, you don't seem to care how other people feel. You only care about how you feel, right? So it's this level of selfishness, so selfish emotions. Women, men, we're all the same. We don't give a shit about how others feel. We care about how we feel. If we're not happy in a relationship, we'll be like, bye, I'm moving on. This just isn't working for me.
Right.
And it's all a very me situation. I remember doing a video in Miami where I talked about the fact that we've created a narcissistic society. We've literally created a society of...
It's so true, man. Like, you just go... I mean, he's... Great points he's bringing up. Everything. I agree with pretty much everything he's saying here. But if you just go on social media, right? And it's just a highlight reel of like me. Look at all this great stuff. Man, I've deleted my Instagram. I only have Facebook for Facebook Marketplace and like family. Like, I don't go on there and post anything. I have Twitter just curated to like a news feed for, Bloomberg, Wall Street Journal, all that stuff. But man, like, it's so feminine for guys to just go on there and just like want to have all this attention drawn to them for like stupid things that nobody cares about. Like, I can't stand it. It's crazy. Like, everybody's a narcissist nowadays. Like, all about me. Like what he's saying, all about me. Like, look at all this crazy stuff I'm doing. Like, look at all these highlights. They don't show you any of the bad stuff, right? It's always the good stuff.
Narcissists. And don't just blame women for this. Men are also the same, right? If you're a handsome man, you've got a bit of money. Even if you're not a handsome man and you don't even have money, you're still selfish. You're still taught to care for your own needs. And it doesn't matter how others feel or how they think or how they treat you. How you feel seems to be more important than, strangely enough, how others treat you. If someone treats you well, but you don't feel right around them, especially the case with women, because women are much more emotionally driven.
For sure. Yep.
Then she'll just break up with you because it doesn't feel like you're the right person for her. So, look, again, we've got options is a massive issue.
Yep.
We've got this whole idea of like mental health and being selfish and being individualistic, which, especially in the West, the more and more time goes on, the more individualistic we have become as a society. Mm-hmm. So no wonder relationships are breaking down. You only care about yourself and you've got a shit ton of options.
Really, the only time it works in a relationship, is at least in my experience for what I've seen, is when somebody else has power over the other person in the relationship and the other person simps to them, right? Like, I can say two of my good friends. One of them gets bossed around all the time by his wife, like literally gets told what to do, literally gets told if he can go out with the friends or if he can do this and he can do that. The other one, I think it's a similar dynamic. I've seen her like snap one time and he was like, "Oh, no, I'm sorry. Like, I didn't mean," like, and he just like completely simped to her, right? And then I look at like other relationships where the male is dominant. One of my really good friends, he's more dominant in that relationship. And she's the type of woman that kind of needs to be told what to do and likes to have that leader in the relationship to kind of lead the family. So it's interesting. It's usually somebody, from what I've seen, has to have that role and has to like be in control, and the other person be okay with it for it to like work out. Right? I don't know if you agree with that, but that's what I've seen.
Now, the third and final thing I would say is living a life of independence. Everyone wants to be independent. Everyone wants to travel. You're urged to travel alone and go to beautiful places. Everyone wants to start their own businesses, make their own money. They're starting to wake up and realize that society doesn't really give a shit about them and that they should, formulate their own plans and live their own life and write their own story. And so we're less willing to sacrifice for others, right? Writing your own story means that having a girlfriend and traveling around Thailand sounds very boring. So it would just make more sense to travel around Thailand single, right? It's just not as exciting doing it with a girlfriend. Similarly with her, she might think to herself that she's been with you for a long time in her young age, and now all of a sudden, she's decided that she wants to go traveling. She wants to explore herself. She wants to meet other men. She hasn't been single for so long, so she wants to enjoy her life. So this idea of like freedom and travel and going somewhere new and being alone and not being told what to do.
All right.
I like switching hands when
I kind of agree with that, but I think like if you find that right partner that complements you and you complement them and you guys have a good solid like understanding of each other and what you guys like to do, like you could do all that together, right? It's just like finding the needle in the haystack, finding that person that you connect with on that level and you guys just mesh really well. Like it's not easy, especially with like the dating apps today. Like it's just so hard, right? And then like the only really other options are to cold approach women, right? Or mutual friends. And that's really it. Then you got like social media, you got, the social apps, and then you got obviously the dating apps, right? So you got really four options, and all of them have their like quirks and like pros and cons. I met this really nice girl. Okay, let me just tell you a story. I met this really nice girl and her two sisters in Yosemite National Park. Completely, cold approach, right? It was just like, I didn't know them, they didn't know me. I was coming back from like loading stuff in my car because I just got back from a hike. And I was getting to my campsite and I was going to go to the showers. And I came to my campsite and here are these three beautiful blonde girls sitting at my picnic table. And there was another guy that was solo traveling. His name was Mike, and he was sitting at the table and he was talking with the girls. And I walked over and like, they all were like, "Hey, what's up, Dave? Like, nice to meet you." Like, never talked to these girls before in my life, right? So we ended up, talking, having a great time. Got their phone numbers. Like, we ended up, they were leaving the next day, but we ended up having like a nice night. We ended up having a fire, got food, like we were drinking, like getting to know each other, and that was just a real genuine connection, right? And like we left and they left, and I was texting one of the girls, Megan, on social media, and she lived in Texas and I lived obviously in the Northeast, and she's like, "Oh, it's so disrespectful that you live halfway across the country because you're like my ideal guy," and I'm like, man, like why couldn't it be this easy all the time? Like, it, it was just like one of those things that just it happened. But it really wasn't meant to be because, like, we have all these barriers, right? We still talk. We're actually meeting up. We're going on another trip to Glacier National Park in July. Like, I'm meeting back up with them. We're going to do another trip. Who knows? It could work out in the future, but as of right now, like, it's not because of the distance thing. And, like, she's in med school and there's a lot of different things. But anyways, it's not that easy, and a lot of people want to do like the solo traveling, which I've done, and I think everybody should do solo traveling at least once in their life. But if you can find that right person, like Megan, who I was just talking about, like we meshed really well together. Like we had a really good connection, and we, obviously I haven't you know, seen her on a day-to-day basis and kind of interact with her and like, you know, been in a relationship and stuff to kind of to vet it out and to see if it would actually work. But what I'm trying to say is like, if you find that person and you guys are on that level, like traveling, doing all this stuff together, like you will have a great time. Like if you guys are on that level, you know, you got to find that person, finding the needle in the haystack. It's hard to do.
It's because my hands get pretty tired holding the phone. I need to do more shoulder exercises.
I can relate to that. I did a video the other day.
This level of freedom,
oh,
you know, go where you want, travel and travel alone, and go to beautiful places. And I'm restricted. I feel very restricted. You're restricting me. Everything's very like restrictive when you're with someone, right? So people want their freedoms and their independence. And that's the reason why relationships are becoming so difficult to maintain. Because we also find it extremely difficult to allow people their freedoms when we are with them, right? So if your woman wants to go on holiday to Miami or to Vegas, rightfully so, you ought to question why they're going to Miami. I'll tell you that. After me living in Miami for many years, be careful letting your woman go to Miami on a hen do or a bachelorette party. But ultimately, the freedom that people want, the options, the fact that you can always find someone better.
Yep. So
means
tough.
we're not willing to fight for our existing relationships.
It's so pathetic.
You know, I'll find someone better.
It's so pathetic.
If this doesn't work, on to the next.
Yep.
And that's simply why relationships...
And I can't even sit here and say I'm not guilty of this either. Like, my ex of 3 years, like, in the back of my mind, man, I was always saying, like, oh, I can definitely do better than this, right? I can do better. I can do better. Like, you know, just get back on the apps, just kind of, you know, swipe, trying to find somebody else. Like, I can do better, you know? At the same time, like I look back on that relationship and I was like, man, like she was a really good girl. Like I'm kind of bummed out it didn't work out. Some of the best times I had in bed were with her. She was an absolute freak, man. Like, you know, she was Colombian, right? So she kind of was more that traditional type girl. But it just didn't work out, man. And that's what happens, right? Like sometimes you got to go your separate ways. It didn't work out, but you had some good memories together.
Don't seem to work in modern day society. So I hope you can make it work on your side, because I certainly haven't seen many reference points that I look up to where people are making relationships work and they're making it work successfully.
Oh, that's the end of the video. Yeah, guys, interesting perspective here, right? Some great points. Like, it's just so easy, man. Like, it's so easy to move on to the next thing, on to the next person. Like, you know, like, it's just a swipe away, right? But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you guys in the next one. Be sure to subscribe, like, and comment.